How Warren Buffett made his first million. The story. They don't tell you in schools. You're 6 years old. You're standing on the porch of a house in the small town of Omaha, Nebraska. In your hands, 6 cans of Coca-Cola. You just bought them for 25 cents at your grandfather's store, and now you're going door to door, selling them for 5 cents each. Profit, 5 cents per pack. Most people would say, so what? That's just a kid playing store. They're wrong, because this kid isn't just any kid. This kid thinks differently. This kid has already grasped something that most adults will never understand in their entire lifetime. He understood, money must work. Every cent must give birth to a new cent. His name was Warren Edward Buffett, and this is the story of how he traveled from lemonade stand to his first $1 million. A story about discipline that frightens, about patience that looks like madness, about decisions that seem suicidal, and about the moment when everything could have collapsed, but didn't. Buckle up. This is going to be a long ride. Part 1. Absolute Zero. August 1930. The United States is drowning in the Great Depression. Banks collapse one after another. Bread lines stretch for city blocks. People lose their homes, their jobs, their hope. The country groans. It is precisely at this moment that a boy is born into the family of a modest stockbroker named Howard Buffett. No inheritance, no connections, no starting capital. Father, a man of modest means but strong principles. Mother, a woman with a sharp tongue and a difficult temperament. Warren's childhood was neither happy nor easy. He would later say that his mother knew how to wound with words, and it left a mark that lasted a lifetime. Little Warren was a strange child, unsociable, quiet. While other kids chased balls in the street, he read. Everything he could find, math books, biographies of businessmen, statistical almanacs. By the age of 8, he had already devoured every finance book in the Omaha Public Library. But knowledge without capital is nothing. He had no money, no investors, not a single adult willing to say, I believe in you, here's some money, go trade. There was only him, and his mind. That's when he took his first step, so small it could have gone unnoticed. But that step would change everything. Part 2. First attempts, first failures, 6 years old, Coke, 5 cents of profit per pack. That was the beginning, but the cola business was just the warm-up. By age 11, Warren was already selling chewing gum door to door, hawking Saturday Evening Post magazines, collecting lost golf balls and reselling them to wealthy players. He delivered newspapers, and did it so methodically that he had memorized every house on his route. While his peers spent their pocket money on candy, Warren saved his, every single cent. But the real moment came at age 11. Warren bought his first shares of stock, 3 shares of City's Service, preferred at $38.25 each, using his own savings and money from his sister Doris, whom he had convinced to invest alongside him, a total of about $115, nearly everything he had. And then the thing that breaks most beginning investors happened. The stock fell sharply, down to $27 per share. His sister watched him with silent reproach. He felt burning shame and a pressure that was nearly unbearable. At night, he couldn't sleep. He counted the losses. He wondered, maybe he'd made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't for him. Most people would have sold and never looked back, but not him. Warren held, teeth clenched. He held. The stock climbed back to $40. He sold, a small profit. Relief. But then he learned something that stung even more than the price drop. Shortly after he sold, City's Service stock soared to $202. $202 per share. He had sold too early. He'd been afraid. He'd flinched. That lesson, worth a few $100s, would become the foundation of his future $100 billion fortune, because it beat the fear of short-term fluctuations out of him forever. But this was only the beginning of the pain. Part 3. The Turning Point, 1942. Warren is 12 years old. His father is elected to the U.S. Congress, and the family moves to Washington. For most kids, that's an adventure. For Warren, it was a catastrophe. He hated Washington. He hated the new school. He hated losing his roots, his newspapers, his income. He was so miserable that he ran away back to his grandfather in Omaha, and only his father's intervention brought him back. But even in this hell, he didn't stop. In Washington, he took on a newspaper delivery route, the Washington Post. Every morning, before school, he delivered hundreds of copies across several city blocks. Then he went to school. Then he did his homework. Then he counted his earnings. Discipline, every day, no days off. By age 13, his income from newspapers exceeded what his teacher earned, 13 years old, more than his teacher. But he didn't spend that money. He didn't buy a bicycle. He didn't go to the movies with friends. He saved, reinvested, thought ahead. It was around this time that something important clicked inside his mind. He grasped the principle of compound interest, not as a formula from a textbook, but as a living, pulsating idea. Money that works gives birth to money. That money gives birth to more money, and so on, endlessly. You just have to not interfere with the process. Don't spend, don't panic, don't sell too early. Wait. Most people cannot wait. They need it now. Warren learned to wait before he learned to drive. Part 4. The first serious step toward capital, 1945. 15 years old. Warren and his friend Don Denley buy a used pinball machine for $25 and install it in a barber shop. Not just one, then a second, then a third. Within a few months, they have 3 machines running in several establishments across Washington, earning several $100s a week in passive income. Passive income, at 15. While his classmates were thinking about how to impress girls, Warren was thinking about scaling. He already understood. It doesn't matter how hard you work. What matters is how hard your money works. While you sleep. He sold the pinball business for $1,200 when his father won re-election and the family returned to Omaha. $1,200 in 1945. Warren is 15. But the most important thing wasn't the money. The most important thing was that he had just proven to himself that he could build systems. Systems that generate income without his constant involvement. That knowledge would drive him for the rest of his life. In 1947, when Warren graduated from high school, his total savings were approximately $5,000. $5,000 from nothing, built over a few years of newspapers, gum, golf balls, and pinball machines. $5,000, equivalent to roughly $65,000 in today's money. But he was only starting to accelerate. Part 5. The teacher who changed everything. In 1950, 20-year-old Warren Buffett applied to Harvard Business School and was rejected. Think about that. The future richest man on the planet, turned away by Harvard. The interviewer looked at him and said he was too young, too immature. Most people would have broken, would have started doubting themselves, would have chosen a different path, but not him. Because it was precisely at that moment that he discovered something that blew his world wide open. He stumbled upon Benjamin Graham's book, The Intelligent Investor, and if before he thought he understood investing, he now realized he knew absolutely nothing. Graham flipped his thinking upside down. The essence was simple and revolutionary. A stock isn't a piece of paper with a price. A stock is a share in a real business. And if you buy it for less than it's actually worth, you're not speculating. You're investing. Warren discovered that Graham taught at Columbia University. He immediately applied. Columbia accepted him. In Graham's class, Warren Buffett received the first A-plus grade of his life, the only student in the entire history of the course to ever earn that distinction. He had found his teacher, found his method, found his game. Now he just needed capital. Part 6. The risk that could have destroyed everything, 1951. Warren finishes Columbia and returns to Omaha. He wants to work on Wall Street, wants to work for Benjamin Graham himself, his idol. Graham turns him down. Another blow, another rejection. Warren goes to work at his father's brokerage firm for a token salary. He sells stocks to clients and simultaneously invests his own money in the very things he recommends. This was a dangerous principle. If he was wrong, he lost not only clients' money, but his own. His reputation and his capital were on the line simultaneously. But that's precisely what gave him a level of concentration that nothing else could provide. During this period, he discovers shares in a small insurance company called GEICO. Most analysts ignored it. It was small, unglamorous, it had no sparkle. But Warren saw what others didn't. He saw the business model. He saw the competitive advantage. He saw the future. He invested $10,000 in GEICO, nearly 65% of his entire capital, 65%. Imagine taking 65% of all your money and placing it on a single card, on a company nobody's heard of, that nobody wants. His friends tapped their temples. His father worried. Everyone around him said, "Warren, you've lost your mind." This was precisely the moment when everything could have collapsed. If he had been wrong, 2/3 of his capital would have been gone. A 21-year-old man left with pennies in his account and a ruined reputation. But he wasn't wrong. Jico soared. Part 7. How the First Million was born 1954. Benjamin Graham finally calls Warren and offers him a job. 2 years at Graham's firm were 2 years of masterclass. Warren watched the great teacher work. He absorbed every word, every decision, every principle. And simultaneously, quietly, methodically, he continued building his own capital. Every dollar he earned, he reinvested. He didn't spend it on a car. He didn't rent an expensive apartment. He lived modestly. He counted every penny. In 1956, Graham closed his firm and retired. And then Warren did something that shocked everyone around him. He returned to Omaha, the city that everyone flees in search of success, and he founded his own investment partnership, Buffett Partnership Limited. Starting capital, $105,100. 7 partners, family members, and through discipline, through patience, through a way of thinking he had begun forging at age 6 with cans of Coca-Cola on a porch in Nebraska. Final, what you need to understand. Most people hear this story and think, well, he got lucky, different era, different opportunities. This isn't about me. They're wrong, because the story of Buffett isn't about stocks. It isn't about the stock exchange. It isn't about the 1950s. It's about principles that work in any era, in any country, at any income level. First principle, start now with what you have. Warren started with cans of Coca-Cola, with 5 cents of profit, with $25 for a pinball machine. You don't need $1 million in starting capital to begin thinking like an investor. Second principle, reinvest everything. Every time Warren earned something, he put it back. He didn't spend on status. He didn't buy things he didn't need. Compound interest only works when you don't interfere with it. Third principle, learn from the best. Buffett found Graham and went to learn from him. He didn't reinvent the wheel. He took the best existing system and applied it with surgical precision. Fourth principle, patience is a weapon. In a world where everyone wants everything immediately, a person who knows how to wait holds a colossal advantage. Warren held some stocks for decades because he understood time is on his side. Fifth principle, think for yourself. When everyone was selling, he was buying. When everyone laughed at Geeko, he put in 65% of his capital. When everyone told him to move to New York, he went back to Omaha. He never followed the crowd, never. And so, that little boy with cans of Coca-Cola on a porch in Nebraska became one of the wealthiest human beings in history. Not because he was lucky, but because he thought differently, lived differently, waited when others panicked, bought when others sold, studied when others rested, reinvested when others spent. You think starting from zero is a curse? Warren Buffett started from zero, from 6 cans of Coca-Cola, from 25 cents of profit, and it didn't stop him from changing the rules of the game forever. There's only one question left. When are you going to sell your first can of Coke?